Dear students, good morning to all. I am Radhalakshmi, biology teacher, Hidayah School known Meladu. And today's lesson is on mutation, which comes under the topic inheritance. So now we can have a quick review on what is inheritance. So the transmission of genetic information from generation to generation, we call it as inheritance. Okay. So remember students, inherited means the characters are copied and passed on to the next generation. Okay. And we know each individual is unique. Unique means has some special characters. Okay. So the differences in the differences between individuals in the same species, we call it as variation. So once again I repeat, variation refers to the differences between the individuals of the same species. Okay, and we know the variations are caused by two factors. One is the environmental factor and the second one is the mutation. So remember, the environmental factors, the variation which is caused by environmental factors cannot be inherited, but the variation which is caused by mutation can be inherited. Okay. Now we can see the learning intention of this lesson. So in this lesson we are going to learn the definition of mutation, the causes of mutation, types of mutation with examples, then the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. Then the success criteria will be, I will be successful if I can define mutation, state the causes of mutation, list the two types of mutation with examples, then how mutation causes sickle-shaped RBC, and finally list three symptoms of sickle cell anemia. So dear students, at the end of the lesson, you have to check whether you can recall these objectives. Okay. Now we can see some terms related with our topic mutation. Okay. So inside a cell, we can see there will be a nucleus. And we know the function of the nucleus is to control all the activities of the cell. And inside the nucleus we can see the chromosomes. They contain the genetic materials. And inside the chromosome we can see some double-stranded structures, we call it as DNA. And the segment of the DNA we call it as gene. So a segment of the DNA is called the gene. So answer my question, where the genes are located? Inside the DNA. And where the DNA is located? Inside the chromosome. And where we can see the chromosomes? Inside the nucleus. Is it clear? Yes. Now we can see the difference between genes and alleles. Okay, it's very, very important. You should know how to differentiate the genes as well as the alleles. So gene is defined as a length of DNA that codes for a protein. Okay, so for the production of protein, a gene is responsible. Okay, and the alleles are defined as a version of a gene. Okay, so alleles are defined as a version of a gene. So you can look at the picture here. In this picture, we can see there are a homologous pair of chromosomes is shown. And what does it mean, homologous pair of chromosomes? Means, if the chromosome has similar structure as well as length, we call it as homologous pair of chromosomes. And inside the chromosomes, the genes are located. Okay. And here, the gene for eye color is shown. So this is representing the gene for eye color. And here, the allele is blue eyes and brown eyes. Is it clear? So, where the genes are located? Inside the chromosomes. And which gene is shown here? Gene for eye color. And what are the two alleles for this particular gene eye color? Two. What are they? Blue eyes and brown eyes. So, now you can able to differentiate the genes as well as the alleles. Clear, students? Now, we can go deep into our topic mutation. Okay, so what is mutation? It is a genetic change in the structure of a gene or in the chromosome number. So, there may be some change. Where? In the structure of a gene or in the chromosome number. So, when you look at this picture, you can see very clearly. Before Before the mutation, we can see all the nucleotide bases are arranged in order. But after mutation, we can see there was some disturbance in the arrangements. Okay? And this is mainly caused because of mutation. Is it clear? Once again, what is mutation? Mutation is a genetic change in the structure of a gene or in the chromosome number. Clear? Now we can see the causes. Means how the mutation is caused. So there are two main factors responsible for the mutation. One is the radiation and second is chemicals. So radiation, many examples are there for the radiations. So here we can see gamma rays, it's a type of radiation. X-ray is another type of radiation, and ultraviolet rays, you are more familiar with this, UV rays. So these all types of radiations are causing what actually? Mutations. Okay. And the second we can see some chemicals. Okay, we know in the cigarettes one chemical is present, that is tar. Okay, so remember tar is also causing mutations. Okay, so we can say tar as mutagen. Mutagen means what? The substance which induces mutation are called mutagens. Is it clear? So once again, why tar is called a mutagen? Because it induces mutation. So we call tar as mutagen. Is it clear? So once again, so how many types are there? How many factors are responsible for causing the mutation? One is our radiation and second one is the chemical. Is it clear? Okay. And mutagens means what? These substances which induces mutation are called mutagens. Clear? Now we can see the types of mutation. So, dear students, there are two types of mutations are there. One we call it as the chromosomal mutation. The second one is the gene mutation. Okay. So, chromosomal mutation means it is a mutation that changes the chromosome number. So, when there is a change in chromosome number, we call it as what? Chromosomal mutation. Is clear? And here we can see the example is Down syndrome. So it is a condition in which a person has an extra chromosome. So normally we know our body cells will be having 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. But the person with Down syndrome will be having one extra chromosome. So instead of 46, they will be having 47 chromosomes. Is it clear? So once again, what is chromosomal mutation? How will you say? Chromosomal mutation means it's a mutation that changes the chromosome number. So in Down syndrome, instead of 46 chromosomes, they will be having 47 chromosomes. Okay. Now we can see the next type of mutation is the gene mutation. And here we can see a gene mutation is a change in the base sequence of DNA. So if the change is in base sequence of DNA, we call it as a gene mutation. And the example for gene mutation is sickle cell anemia. So the example for gene mutation is sickle cell anemia. And here you can see the picture of a normal gene as well as a mutated gene. So in the normal gene, we can see the nucleotide bases are arranged in a sequence. Okay. Like that here also, the mutated gene also, the sequence will be same. But there is a change in the nucleotide. Here the nucleotide is T, but the mutated one it is C. So there is a change in the base sequence. Is clear? And this we call it as what? Gene mutation. Because this mutation has taken place in the which one? In the base sequence of the DNA. So we call it as gene mutation. So dear students, what is the example for gene mutation is sickle cell anemia. Good. And now we can see how a new allele is formed or formation of new alleles. If the mutation occurs at a particular allele, this allele may be altered. Altered means of change. So, what about its function? Its function also change. This is how new alleles are formed. So, once again, if the mutation takes place in an allele, what happens to the allele? The allele will change. Automatically, the function of the allele has also been changed. Okay, so now this allele will function as a new allele. Clear? Now we can see about sickle cell anemia in detail. Okay. So we know sickle cell anemia is caused by gene mutation. Clear? And here, the mutant allele produces a faulty type of hemoglobin. What is the meaning of faulty type of hemoglobin? Means there is some changes in the structure, okay, of the particular gene. Okay, so because of the change in the structure of the gene, what happened to the hemoglobin produced is also having some defects. Okay, so we call it as faulty type of hemoglobin, causing the red blood cells to become stiff and sickle shaped. Okay, so in this case, if the hemoglobin is faulty, what about the RBC produced? It will be, how it will be? Stiff as well as sickle shaped. Okay. Now we can say how mutation causes sickle shaped RBC. So this is very, very important. You should know how mutation is causing a change in the RBC. Okay, and here what is the change? We can see is sickle shaped RBC. Okay, and here mutation takes place in the gene that code for production of hemoglobin. Okay, so where does the mutation takes place? In the gene. And on which gene? The gene which is coding for the production of hemoglobin, that gene. So the mutant allele produces a faulty type of hemoglobin. That means there is differences in the DNA sequence. Is it faulty type means differences in the DNA sequence. So the amino acid sequence in the hemoglobin changes. Okay, and the faulty hemoglobin produces fibers inside the RBC. So inside the RBC, what will be produced? Fibers. And what these fibers will do? The RBC cells get pulled into a sickle shape because these fibers are pulling the RBC. So automatically the RBC changes its shape and it becomes sickle shaped. So I told you where does mutation takes place? Yes, mutation takes place in the gene that code for the production of hemoglobin. Okay. And because of that mutation, what happens? This mutant allele produces a faulty type of hemoglobin. So because of that, the amino acid sequence in the hemoglobin changes. So what happens finally? The faulty hemoglobin produces fibers. And what these fibers will do? These fibers will be pulling the RBC so that the RBC becomes sickle shaped. Is it clear? Yes. So now we can see the diagram which shows how mutation causes sickle shaped RBC. Okay. So when you look at the picture, you can see this is actually a normal, how normal hemoglobin is produced. And here how, because of mutation, a sickle shaped hemoglobin is produced. Okay. Here you can see the difference. And here we know for the production of a protein, there are two steps there. One is transcription and translation. You have already learned. Okay. Now, see here, in the normal case, we can see this is actually a gene. And these genes are copied in the form of mRNA. And from the mRNA, this is actually the mRNA. And from the mRNA, we can see these are the amino acids. And this finally, this amino acids leads to the production of a normal hemoglobin. Okay. But in this case, what happened? This is our gene. And here we can see what happened to this here. There is a change in one nucleotide sequence or a base. It has been changed. So here T is there. And automatically, if there is a change in one base here, the same change can be reflected in the next also. Okay. And here again it is copied in the form of mRNA. And here also we can see there is a change in the base sequence. And again because of this, the amino acid sequence also, there will be some changes in the amino acid sequence. And because of that, what about our hemoglobin produced is faulty. So because of the faulty hemoglobin, we can see the RBC becomes sickle shaped. Is it clear, students? So if there is a change in the base sequence of a gene, where it will be reflected? It will be reflecting on the protein produced. Is it clear? So here we can see the gene for the production of hemoglobin protein. No? In that place, what has taken place? Gene mutation. So because of that mutation, we can see the result is what? What type of hemoglobin is producing? A faulty type, and it is showing sickle shaped. Clear? And now we can see the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. It is very, very important because most of the question papers will be having questions on list the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. Okay. So here remember the first one is feeling tired. Okay. Tired means we can say this fatigue. Fatigue. Okay. And next one is shortness of breath. There may be sometimes difficulty to breathe. Then they may suffer strokes, blindness or damage to the lungs, kidney or heart. Once again, so first symptom is for feeling tired, then shortness of breath, and they may of strokes, blindness or damages to the lungs, kidneys or heart. So these are all the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. Diagram showing the normal red blood cell as well as the sickle shaped red blood cell. So this is the picture showing the normal red blood cell, and this picture shows the sickle shaped RBC. Okay. And here we know the normal RBCs are biconcave in shape and they have large surface area so that they can able to transport more amount of oxygen to our body cells. Okay. But at the same time here one more thing is these cells can freely move into the blood vessels and they can provide efficient transport of oxygen to our body cells. Okay, this is in normal case. But in the sickle shaped RBCs here what happened is the surface area is very less. Okay, and surface area is very less means they can carry very less amount of oxygen to the body cells. And transporting is also having some difficulties. The thing is, here they are sickle shaped. Now sickle shaped means they may clump together. Clump means what? They will be, most of the time they may clump together and they will be blocking the blood flow. So when there is a blockage in the blood flow, what happens is most of our body cells as well as organs do not get enough oxygen. That is the reason why when the persons are having sickle cell anemia, they have some damages to the organs, okay, like brain, heart, kidneys as well as lungs. Okay, I told you one of the main symptoms of sickle cell anemia is which one? Damages to the organs like heart, the lungs as well as the kidneys. Okay, I told you. The reason is what? Because of lack of oxygen. Is it clear? Because these RBCs have very less surface area, so they will be transporting very less amount of oxygen to the body cells. At the same time, they may clump together so that they block the blood flow. Is it clear? Okay. So the reason, now you know the reason behind the damages to the organs. Clear? Yes. Now we can see a video on the causes of sickle cell anemia and the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. Okay. So students, please watch the video.
What shape are your cells? Squishy cylinders? Jagged zigzags? You probably don't think much about the bodies of these building blocks, but at the microscopic level, small changes can have huge consequences. And while some adaptations change these shapes for the better, others can spark a cascade of debilitating complications. This is the story of sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease affects the red blood cells, which transport oxygen from the lungs to all the tissues in the body. To perform this vital task, red blood cells are filled with hemoglobin proteins to carry oxygen molecules. These proteins float independently inside the red blood cell's pliable donut-like shape, keeping the cells flexible enough to accommodate even the tiniest of blood vessels. But in sickle cell disease, a single genetic mutation alters the structure of hemoglobin. After releasing oxygen to tissues, these mutated proteins lock together into rigid rows. Rods of hemoglobin cause the cell to deform into a long, pointed sickle. These red blood cells are harder and stickier and no longer flow smoothly through the blood vessels. Sickled cells snag and pile up, sometimes blocking the vessel completely. This keeps oxygen from reaching a variety of cells, causing the wide range of symptoms experienced by people with sickle cell disease. Starting when they're less than a year old, patients suffer from repeated episodes of stabbing pain in oxygen-starved tissues. The location of the clogged vessel determines the specific symptoms experienced. A blockage in the spleen, part of the immune system, puts patients at risk for dangerous infections. A pileup in the lungs can produce fevers and difficulty breathing. A clog near the eye can cause vision problems and retinal detachment. And if the obstructed vessels supply the brain, the patient could even suffer a stroke. Worse still, sickled red blood cells also don't survive very long, just 10 or 20 days, versus a healthy cell's 4 months. This short lifespan means that patients live with a constantly depleted supply of red blood cells, a condition called sickle cell anemia.
So dear students, you have watched the video and now you know the causes for sickle cell anemia as well as what are the symptoms which may result due to sickle cell anemia. Okay, now we can summarize the topics we have learned in today's lesson. So, the first one you should know the definition of mutation. So, what is mutation? It is a genetic change that takes place in the structure of the gene as well as in the chromosome number. And we have learned there are two causes for mutation. The one is radiation and the second one is chemical. And the example for chemical I mentioned is tar. Very good. And tar is a mutagen. Why tar is a mutagen? Because it induces mutation in the organs. So tar, we can say it induces mutation. Then the types of mutation with example, there are two types of mutation we have learned. One is the chromosomal mutation and second one is the gene mutation. The example for chromosomal mutation is Down syndrome, and instead of 46 chromosome, those with Down syndrome will be having 47 chromosomes. Then we have seen about the gene mutation. There is a change in the sequence of base sequence of the DNA. We call it as a gene mutation. And remember, the example for gene mutation we have studied is sickle cell anemia. Then we can see how mutation causes sickle-shaped RBCs. Okay, I told you the mutation will be taking place in the gene that code for the production of hemoglobin. Because of that, the mutant allele is producing a faulty type of hemoglobin. Okay, so because of that, what happened to the amino acid sequence? There is a change in amino acid sequence. So because of that, the RB, that is the hemoglobin, is producing some fibers. So these fibers are pulling the RBC to become sickle shaped. Clear? And then we have seen the symptoms of sickle cell anemia. So remember, there are three main symptoms for sickle cell anemia. The first one is feeling tired or fatigue. Second one, as I told you, what may be the second reason? Anyone? Any guess? Any guess? Yes, shortness of breath. And the third reason is damages to the organs like kidney. Sometimes it may be eyes, or sometimes it may be brain, our heart, as well as our lungs. Okay, so dear students, now we can see some practice question related with our topic. Okay. So the first question is actually a multiple choice question. So what is mutation? So remember, these type of question there will be 4 choices. So you can select the correct choice for this question. Okay, so what is mutation is, we know it is a change in the gene or chromosome. Okay, so the option A is the correct answer. Then we can see one more question, that is this is actually a part of the structured question. Describe the effect of sickle cell anemia on the body. So you have to write what are the causes of sickle cell anemia on the body. Okay, and how the organs are getting damaged because of the sickle cell anemia. Okay, and then you can see one more question related with our structured part. That is, suggest and explain what happens to the seed when they are exposed to ionizing radiation. We know one of the causes for mutation is radiation. So whenever in the question the term radiation is there, make sure what should be happen to the seeds. Mutation takes place and there is a change in the structure of the genes in the seed. Is it clear? So 2 marks, you can write 1 point is mutation takes place